and all the leaders of the tribes go out towards the soldiers. Wow. Couldn't Moshe just stay home and sitting on the couch? Why is he going out with these two high-ranking members of Israel, the Kohen Gadol and the princes? Maybe to give honor. Maybe to give honor. The soldiers are now coming home. They representing Israel. Wouldn't it be proper to go out, with some cheese, some wine, and Toda Rabah, and salute the flag? Go out and give honor. And then, in verse 14, Vayikzof Moshe. Okay? We learned yesterday morning in the Golan Heights about anger, for those that came. Here, unfortunately, Moshe became angry, which is not a good thing. By the way, who does he really want to become angry? Who should he really be angry at? He's angry that they did not wipe out the women of Midian, correct?
Yes.
Who takes responsibility? Who should take responsibility in a military war? The leader. Who's the leader?
Moshe.
No, Moshe didn't go out to war. Who went out to war? Pinchas went out to war. So why doesn't he go directly to Pinchas and say, no, I'm angry at you? It rhymes. No, I'm angry at you, Pinchas. But he doesn't say, no, I'm angry at you, Pinchas. Who does he get angry at? Pikudei Achayil in verse 14. Pikudei Achayil, those that were counted and went to the war. He goes to the lower ranking officers, the officers of 1,000, the officers of hundreds. Yes? Interesting. He's not getting angry at Pinchas. The Ramban asked this question, Nachmanides. Why doesn't he get angry at the leading soldier? Rather, he wants to give honor. To who? To Pinchas. He doesn't want to point the finger at him. Such a distinguished person. He's the person that saved the Jewish people when he stabbed to death, he killed to death Cosby and Zimri. So he wants to show honor. Let's just say you are Pinchas and you are Aaron. You're the alufim. All of you guys are alufim or mefakdei chativot, lower ranking officers. And he talks to everyone except to Pinchas. He doesn't look at him whatsoever. He's giving honor to him because he was so special. Okay. Moshe lost his cool, which is a bad thing. And he asked him, why didn't you kill? And we explained in our last shiur, do you remember? There's a misunderstanding here. Moshe thought it would be clear to them that if you go to war revenge, you're going to kill the women because they're the ones that undermine the Jewish people. And he asks them in verse 15, Hachayitem kol nekeva? Did you? He's in wonder. He's in astonishment. Did you let alive the women? And he explains why they should not have been left alive. Verse 16. These are the women that what? They caused us to sin. The sexual sins, the idolatry sins. And for that we had the Magifa. How many died in the Magifa? 24,000 died in the plague. So what do we notice? Please look at me for now for understanding here. When we learned the end of Parashat Balak, when the terrible event happened, did we know from the text, from the Chumash, that this was the advice of Bilam, or we did not know?
Did not know.
When do we know?
No.
Now we know here in Parashat Matot. And therefore there's room to raise the question. Ravid, do you hear me? The question we're raising is a question that many commentators raise. Why did the Torah hide this fact, the counsel of Bilam, to hear? Couldn't have the Torah told us that what happened there was the result of the advice, the terrible advice of Bilam? L'chaim. There's nothing here. L'chaim. Hope you're not going to dehydrate. You drink enough water? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, Nechama Leibovitz, this great women scholar who we have her selected books down below in the corner, very, very educational Sfarim. We know the Talmud Yerushalmi, I think it's the Talmud Yerushalmi says, and I've said it here a few times, Divrei Torah aniyim b'makom echad va'ashirim b'makom acher. The words of Torah can be impoverished in one place and very wealthy as if in another place. Okay? God has his reasons why some facts are not written in one place, but other facts are written in other places. And we want to still ask, notwithstanding that is the style of the Torah, but why in this case here? Why did the Torah leave this information only to be disclosed now and not before? And why did the Torah prefer to do it here? Anyone have an answer?
Because the tzaddikim saw Bilam maybe in the war, and they came back and they tell it.
Maybe.
I don't know, to show that the sin was of the people that went with the women of Midian, and not to blame it, not to focus on Bilam, but to focus on the people that sinned.
Very close to what I think one of the great commentators says. There, when we learn about the sin of Israel, okay, we learn about how Israel took the initiative of sinning with the daughters of Moab. It started with idolatry, then eating the unkosher food and bowing down and so on and so forth. The Torah there wanted to describe the sin. The sin. Here, the Torah wants to reveal who's responsible. Who led the daughters of Moab to do what they did together with one of the princes of Midian? Here the Torah wants to say who is the one that coaxed them to do it. Here is the place. Here, he was the one that coaxed, and here's the punishment. There is the sin and the description of the sin. Here is the one that incited people, and here he's getting in his punishment. In other words, the Torah wanted to tell us Mr. Bilam incited, and here he finds his punishment. The Torah just says, wow, Bilam is taking vacation in Midian because here he's been there ever since he incited the people. So we see here a logical trend in the Torah. He's the one that incited. Here he's getting his punishment. He's finding his death. Okay? Now, after the mistake was made, and the generals did not kill the daughters of Midian. We didn't go to war against Moab. Like we said, we're afraid, God forbid, we might kill the one that will bring the Mashiach later on, Ruta Moavia. Look at the instructions, please. Look at the instructions, please. In verse 17, what has to now go to war? Take 2. Go to war, part 2. V'ata, and now hirgu chol zachar bataf. The instructions are not what?
Kill the woman.
As far as the children, only the males and not the children of females. Only the women that can have relations with men are to be killed. In other words, it seems that Moshe Rabbeinu, we're now in what's called not lechatchila situation, an initial beginning situation, but rather what word am I looking for? A b'diavad situation. Very good. Be, di, 2 prefixes, in, that, avad. And the fact that we did what we did, now we have a secondary situation. So Moshe Rabbeinu is like mochel, he's pardoning, he's giving up, killing the young daughters, and also, what does he say in Pasuk Yutet, verse 19? Ve'atem chanu michutz lachem machane shivat yamim. You guys that killed, you have to stay outside the camp for 7 days, like we mentioned yesterday shortly when we were eating falafel in Beit Shan. There was one of the guys that got up, gave a short Dvar Torah. Who has tumat mate? Who has the impurity to the dead? Those that killed and came in contact with the dead of the people of Midian, even though they are not Jews. In other words, tumat mate. I want you to understand the name of this concept. Tum'at Mate. Impurity to the dead. Some of you have learned the pyramid of the levels of impurity, where Avi Avota Tuma, the father of the fathers of Tuma, is the dead body himself. And someone that touches the Avi Avota Tuma, the dead, goes down one level, and now he's a Av Hatuma. He's a primary level of impurity, the one that touches the dead. And someone that touches the dead, we learned already in the book of Bamidbar, did we not? How many days of impurity did we learn already? 7 days. And how is he purified?
The third day and the seventh.
The ashes, Efer Para Aduma, on day number
3.
Yom Shlishi and Yom Shvi'i. So here the instructions are given. If you didn't know that if you even touch the dead of a non-Jew, you're also tamei, you're impure to the dead, Shivat Yamim. Do you see Pasuk Yutet verse 19? That's the instructions of Moshe Rabbeinu. V'atem chanu, camp, michutz lamachane, outside the camp. Outside the camp, don't go into...
The machane.
There are 3 machanot. I caught you, yeah. Yeah, you want to keep, I caught you. Right, do not go into Machane Shechina. They don't have to sit like a mitzorah alone outside the camp of Israel, no one visiting them, and so on and so forth. No, here, Michutz LaMachane, the oral Torah will explain, as Rashi says himself in verse 19, sit outside the camp of the Mishkan courtyard. You can't go into the Mishkan. Can you visit your Levium friends if they have a birthday party?
No. Yes, because it's...
You said 2 answers. One said no, the other said yes.
Depends on where it is.
Yes.
We know where the Levi lives. You were invited. You just came back from the war. You killed a few Midianites. And your Levi friend invites you to a birthday party. Can you go to the Machane Leviah for his birthday party?
Yes.
Right? But you can't go in... What, sir?
Especially the core.
Okay. He's the Levi, right? So you can go into Machane Yisrael, you can go into Machane Leviah, you just can't go into Machane Shechina. You can't go into the Mishkan area, or some parts of the Mishkan area, because you are Tamei Mate. One more time, you are Tamei Mate. So here are the instructions. I'm reading Pasuk 19 again from the middle of the Pasuk. Call any person, Horeg Nefesh, that killed a soul. V'chol nogeh b'chal, you didn't kill him, but you touched him. You either killed him with your sword and you're holding on to the sword, the same sword that killed him, or you're touching the slain. Titchateu, we use that word also in Bamidbar 19, which could mean sterilization today. Chitor, you're going to purify yourself. Bayom hashlishi uvayom hashvi atem you ushvichem. I don't understand why it says ushvichem, but the Eben Ezra says ushvichem for the honor of God that's dwelling amongst you. That's interesting. If we had more time, we get into that, but right now I'm just saying it's a hard concept. Why you and ushvichem? And there, what about your begadim? Your begadim also are what? Are not pure. Okay, so we did here is we studied a little about the war, and now we have an interesting subject. Pasuk 21, Kaf Bet, Kaf Gimel, Kaf Daled. We have a new subject, and that subject is going to be called Hachsharat Kelim plus Tivilat Kelim. Do you hear what I just said? Can you repeat those 2 concepts? Hachsharat Kelim and Tivilat Kelim. Shall we put this on the board as well, these 2 concepts, gentlemen?
Yes.
Wow, I'm a little dizzy already. Is it clear now on the board? Can you read it?
Yes.
Hachsharat Kelim and Tevilat Kelim. Some of you know what Hachsharat Kelim is? Ken, the koshering. Aaron's Yiddish is beautiful.
It's not English?
Oh, gosh.
The koshering is but it's a Hebrew word, you're absolutely right. Ani kasher?
Mamash.
No, so the word kasher means fitness. It means fitness.
Okay. Kosher.
Lasot kosher, thank you very much, Michael. So the word hachshara is to make something suitable, viable, useful. To make something kasher for eating is to make something suitable or usable for eating. That's really the word. Like the word, it's fit. Is your body fit? Haguf shelcha bikosher? Right? Is your body in fitness? I think all of us, we walked a lot of kilometers on the trip, so I think a lot of us have more fitness than we had the day before. I don't know if you have achings and pains, especially for special students, even worked more than others. No, we're saluting you. Nachon, we're saluting them. Nachon Moshe. Okay, so gentlemen, let's learn the law. We have written Torah and we have oral Torah. In Pasuk 21, Vayomer Elazar Kohen. Elazar is now teaching this. And your question is?
What is she teaching?
What is he teaching? We're going to read. But you should even ask, why is he teaching? Who's our Rebbe? Moshe Rabbeinu. So Rashi says, since he reached Ka'as.
What's that?
Ani lo רוצה לכעוס עליך.
Okay.
What's Ka'as?
Anger?
Okay. So since Moshe Rabbeinu reached Ka'as, he forgot these laws. Remember, we learned that early morning before a Tfer in the Golan. When a person gets to a level of anger, his emotions overcome his intellect. And when his emotions overcome his intellect, then he forgets Torah and he can't teach Torah. His blood pressure rises, his heartbeat increases, okay? Blood comes to his head. Have you ever watched me get angry at Hananel? When I get angry, he just runs away 10 meters. Because God forbid if I touch him, I don't want to say what in front of everyone. Okay? How can I get angry? Such a tzaddik. Gentlemen, that's why God be sitting so far away, is afraid I'm going to get angry at him. So that's what Rashi says. Moshe forgot these halachot, therefore who's teaching them now? Elazar. Let's keep on reading the middle of Pasuk 21. Zod chukat Torah. This is the law of the Torah. Asher tziva Hashem et Moshe. Right? Moshe got it when and where?
Sinai.
At Sinai. Ach. Not brother. Ach. However. However what? But it's not enough what Moshe taught you already about the laws of Tum'ah. There's more laws to be taught about Hachsharat Kelim, and I'm adding Tevilat Kelim. Let's read. Et hazahav, et hakasaf, et hanachoshet, et habarzel, et habedil, vet haofar. We just read the number. The number. How many matters itemized? Chaver, look inside, learn Chumash. This is not a lecture.
6.
6 what?
Metals.
Metals. Okay, we again have zahav, kesef, nechoshet, barzel, bedil, which is tin, and ofaret, which is lid. Kol davar. I'm going to add davar, meaning a kli, a pot, a pan, that you took out of any of these metals from the war against Midian, asher yavo be'esh, that you used to cook, not to cook, to bake, to broil in fire, va'esh, meaning without water. How are you going to kosher it? Taviru va'esh. Do you see the words? Put it into fire, and it will expiate. It will take out. Let me just get in contact. Yeah. Hi, how are you? Okay. Do you represent the Midianite Cooking Society? Yeah. Would you please tell me what is the standard Midianite family? Bacon? What? Pig? What lobsters they eat? I see. So can I assume that all their frying pans and all their what? All their pots pans, dish. Okay, thank you very much. I just spoke with the Midianite Cooking Society, and it's quite clear that all the dishes that these generals and all the other soldiers have taken back from captivity, they took freebies, spoil. It's called spoil in war. It goes according to the Geneva Convention, I think so. In any event, they're going to have to be koshered. Why? Because there's unkosher taste inside the dishes. So whatever is used in what? To be cooked or baked in dry fire where there's no usage of water, the same way it absorbs the unkosher, not fit taste, the same way it will expel it, expiate it out of the dish. That's not enough. B'mei nida yitchata. It could very well be b'mei nida yitchata. There are two meanings to here, and Rashi I think brings both. These kelim, aleph, could have tumat mate in them. I repeat, these pots and pans and dishes and silverware could have tumat mate in them. How can they have it?
Tumat
I said tumat mate. How can they have tumat mate in them?
No, because they were in the same place where people got killed.
Where were they killed? And the soldiers touched them. So they have tumat mate. So how do they have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Purified. How?
Fire.
You didn't hear what I said.
Water.
Tumat mate.
Oh, with the
Water.
The ashes of the paraduma. That'll be the simple meaning of b'mei nida yitchata. Nida here does not mean a menstruating woman. But midah was used already in the section of Bamidbar 19, linadot, to sprinkle. We saw that. To sprinkle the ashes of the para aduma. Which para, Ravid? Para aduma, yes? So, one meaning is that you're taking the booty, but first you have to what? Purify it from tumat mate. Tumat mate. That's one meaning. Mei nida has another meaning. Mei is conjunctive for the meaning of the waters of a menstruating woman. The waters that a menstruating woman goes into to immerse herself, i.e., a mikveh. Do you get what I'm saying? Look at Mei nida. Mei nida, mayim shel isha nida. The waters that a woman who would what? Would go into to purify herself. You would have to go to do, where's Mei nida here? Mei nida. Okay? So these kelim have to go into a, not because of tumat mate, not because of tumat mate, but because of a subject that the Torah is renewing, is making a novelty here. We have to purify the dishes from the fact that they come from a non-Jewish source. And therefore do what we call the second one, Tevilat Kelim. What does litbol mean?
Immerse.
To immerse in a mikveh. Yes? Yes or no? Mei nida. Here, the second meaning is, we're not talking here about tumat mate. We're talking about that you just acquired from the booty any of these dishes made out of how many metals? 6 metals. They have to go into mei nida. Mei nida is another word for the waters that a nida woman goes in. A collection of waters called a ritual bath in English, or a mikveh waters, yes or no?
Yes.
So here we have two separate meanings. We have hachsharat kelim, because what's inside? Actually, we have three meanings. We have three meanings here. I'm sorry. First, we have to, if they have tumat mate, they have to have the ashes. Number two, if they have unfit taste inside them, they have to do achsharat kelim. And since they are being now acquired from a non-Jewish source, they have to go through Tvilat Kilim. Did I confuse you? Or do you understand there are 3 levels or 3 mitzvot that have to be done here?
Yes.
Mr. Chen, can you please review to us what 3 matters have to be done here?
The Tumah Met.
They have to be purified from Tumat Mate. Very good.
The second one is the test. The test, the Kelim Exok.
The taste has to be taken out. So that's called the mitzvah of Hachsharat Kelim. And number 3,
Number 3 is immersion for the kosher.
Purify.
No, to purify the thing. They're immersed in the mikveh.
immersing the kelim in a mikveh because they come from a non-Jewish source. All of that is learned from these psukim. And who had a question here, sir?
Is it the same with Pesach cleaning, like you do with fire in your pans and pots? Like,
Excellent. This is the source for making kelim ksherim, fit for use. Since I made noodles in this pot, and which is chametz, I have to make it fit, or what he says, koshering. Aaron's Yiddish is excellent. It's koshering kelim, and in English it's called koshering kelim, and in Hebrew it's called hachsharat kelim, making the kelim fit. Whatever is used with dry heat has to go into fire. Whatever is going to be used in water has to be made fit by boiling water. This is the source of those mitzvot and those halachot. What did you add, Michal?
No, I want to ask if I buy, I don't know if they sell pens, but if I buy a pen on Judaica web store, which is a Jewish web store, but we don't know where it comes from. It may come from China. Most of the things come from China.
Who can answer his question, Mr.
I have a
Zachariah?
doubt.
I've just done it in the past. I said because people bought stuff for a wedding from a Judaica store, and they had to check where it was made in.
No, but he asked about his pen. Did you not?
Pan.
Pen. I was waiting for a special. A pen. Right. Most of gentlemen, we're not yet. Israel is not yet in the in the market for producing. No, we do have sultan. We have a sultan company. It's not right. I'm not saying we have one Israeli company called Sultan, if I'm not mistaken. There could be a few others, but almost all the kelim here are from the Far East, France, and other countries. Even Egypt produces us coffee mugs, and so on and so forth. So you can almost be sure. Oh, yeah, 1 second. A glass? Is that one of the 6?
no.
So did I make a mistake?
No.
That if I have a new coffee mug from Egypt, okay, do I or not have to put it in the mikveh, and why? Why, Gabi? That's correct. In addition to the Torah mitzvah of 6 metals, Chazal came and made a mitzvah derabanan to put glass in there as well.
Why the Habanan say this? Like, what's the reason?
Very good question. Sand, glass is made from sand. Okay? Sand is like and not like earth. Is like and not like earth. And Chachamim thought that if we would produce glassware and not do the mitzvah of Tevilat Kelim, then we might also not do regular Kelim. That was one of their fears, because there's such a similarity. You can make Kelim from earth. Now, if you make pottery is from earth? Yes? Ceramics? So is that part of one of the 6 metals?
No.
It is not. So I saw, you see the guy sitting next to you with the hat on? I saw him taking his pottery, his, what is it called, porcelain? Is that the word? The porcelain, I saw him taking it to the mikveh and making a bracha. Why did he do that?
Because it's coated with glass.
Very good. It has a glazing. Almost all the porcelain for the last decades have a glazing of glass. Why did it have a glazing of a glass? So when you comb your hair, you can put the plate just opposite. You see how where you're parting. What did you part your hair on that side? Okay, so you can part your. You know where to part your hair. They want to make it nice. It's glazed, right? It has a shine. Thank you. So therefore, porcelain or clay pottery which lechatchila is made out of earth, is not one of the 6 metals, nor is it a glass, doesn't have to have tevilat kelim. But since almost all the makers the last few 40 years, 60 years are making a glazing on it, my grandmother, and she should rest in peace. When I got engaged, and she wanted to buy dishes for me, so we bought dishes. It's called Chinaware. That's the name of the dish. You've heard of that, Chinaware? It's supposed to be good dishes, right? After almost 40 years of marriage, we don't have one dish that's left. Everything broke. In any event, Chinaware is porcelain, but it has such a glazing, so we had to take it to the mikveh and put it as an example. Yes,
So what about clay pots and plastic?
Plastic is not obligated for mikveh. What clay pots? Again, if it has a glazing of glass, yes.
Doesn't have.
If it doesn't, then it's just pure earthenware. It doesn't have to. Yes.
I had a rabbi tell me that we can't kosher use like earthenware.
That's right.
Specifically like porcelain.
That's
I guess
correct.
maybe, like,
Right.
finished
So here we're
with-
talking about tivila and not koshering. That's correct.
Yeah.
You're right. What's taken, absorbed in, cannot come out. So to glass, what comes in cannot come out, and therefore there's a machloket between Shulchan Aruch and Ramah. But the fact that if you put a glass into a boiling break as well, so it tells us you can't do it. According to Shulchan Aruch, and the Sfardim abide by it, that the koshering of glass that you don't use for hot things is just in cold water. But according to the Ramah, we don't even touch that matter. And once I went to lead a Seder for Sephardi people in Yerushalayim, my wife and I, and they were using the chametz glass cups that they just rinsed with cold water. And they're lenient in that opinion, in Shulchan Aruch, where the Ramah would say, no, you can't even use it, and so on and so forth. I don't want to get into the lengthy halachic matters. The last matter, and then I want to go to the next subject.
How about the other metals like aluminum?
Okay, they have to be aluminum. I think
Tin.
is under the which metal here?
I think it's tin.
Is it true? Aluminum is stainless steel.
No.
No, completely different.
Steel is barzel. So where does aluminum come from here? Any of these metals?
No, tin. You can't eat from tin. It's like
Yeah, it is.
kind of poison.
Is there an aluminum dish? Is there such a
A
thing?
lot of pots are made of
At aluminum?
Yeah.
No,
But a lot of
for
a lot of
Shabbat
these
you have
metals
like
would be
the big
mixed with
box.
aluminum. They didn't really have like very advanced like refining processes. Like the tin would be like a mix of metals, and it probably would have aluminum in it.
Titanium.
So maybe I would assume that if they're made with one of these metals in addition. It has to be Googled. If it's not one of the 6, then it doesn't have to. No, it may not even be b'chla.
To make pots with
Yeah.
aluminum.
I have to be checked. I have to look that up. I want to now see the next subject, gentlemen.
Just for fact.
No, excuse me, sir. Is this the first war we're going to?
No.
Is not the first war we're going to? What wars have we studied so far? Amalek,
Amalek, Amorites.
Og, and Sichon. Very good.
The war with Arad?
Melech Harad, very good. What's your question?
No. Hey, why we get it now?
Beautiful. Kol hakavod.
No, because we entered the Eretz Yisrael.
So what?
Before.
What about the other wars?
Do we take spoils?
We had to miss.
We take spoils and everything?
That's the question that we're asking. Excellent question. So we want to understand what's the difference between this war, which we said is called Milchemet,
Nekama.
as opposed to the other wars, which are categorized as Milchemet Mitzvah. Okay? So the one that deals with this question amongst the great Rishonim is the Ramban, Nachmanides. Okay? Nachmanides says that we were not commanded with these halachot in the former wars. Okay? Wars against the Amorites who are Canaanite nations. The answer is, when you fight, I just want to read it from him exactly. The Ramban, here it is. Gentlemen, when we go to a war of mitzvah, the Torah permits you to even do prohibitions. I repeat, when we go to war in Milchemet Mitzvah for all of Israel, there are prohibitions that are permitted to Israel. And there's also tumah, impurity. We have a concept regarding impurity that, let's say, a majority of the Jewish people are impure to the dead when the Passover holiday is coming. Are you aware, as the oral Torah teaches us, that you can bring the Korban Pesach in spite of the fact that the majority of the people are tamei? You are defiled to the dead. And that's called in the Talmud, quote, the next three words, Tumah Hutra B'tzibur. I repeat, Tumah Hutra, from the word mutar. What does mutar mean? Allowed, permitted. Tumah is permitted when the public is dealing with these matters. So you should know that when we went to war against Og and we went to war against Sichon, the law, since it's a Milchemet mitzvah and many mitzvot are not in effect, okay? Therefore, we were even allowed to eat their bacon and eggs. We were allowed to eat their foods. We're allowed to use their pots and pans without koshering. That's the reason when we go to a Milchemet mitzvah, we don't have to abide by the laws of tumah, of unkosher foods, and so on and so forth. And therefore, the Talmud says in Masechet Chulin, which one? Page 17, side 1, that even pots that were used to cook that terrible animal are permitted. Okay? In other words, since it's Milchemet mitzvah, when you're doing a mitzvah, you don't have to abide by a lot of the laws. Let me just speak to this Chayal. Chayal, how are you? Okay, when you went to war in Jenin, did you have to put on tefillin? Oh, you didn't have to. Did you have to eat kosher food? Oh, you didn't. You may have wanted to. You may have kept it. But all the mitzvot, they're exempt. When you're doing a mitzvah, you're exempt from doing other mitzvot. The fact that the army was giving them kosher food, that's another thing. But historically, when we would go to war and we would be hungry and we took spoil, we can use their dishes, eat their foods, and so on and so forth. That's what the Ramban Nachmanides plus the Chizkuni explain. Why do these halachot appear here? Because this is not called Milchemet, rather it's called Milchemet Nikama. Milchemet Nikama is a different type of war. We're not permitted we have to abide by all the laws, and therefore God decides to teach these laws over here. As the Chizkuni says, I'll say it out loud to you. God warned in this war about purifying yourself in the laws of Tumah on the third and seventh days. What it did not tell us to do when we're going to war against the seven nations, because when we go to war against the seven nations, all of Israel's involved. And Tumah, Hutra B'tzibur, the laws of Tumah and other halachot I'm adding are permitted because the tzibur is fighting. But we went to Milchemet Mijan, only how many people were fighting? Only 12,000. And therefore, these laws do not appear against the wars of the Amorites against the Canaanim. And God willing, in Devarim chapter 6, which will be after Tisha B'Av, we're going to learn all the beautiful praises of the land of Israel. And the Torah says, I'm going to give you houses. Milayim kol tuv. You're going to inherit, capture Canaanite homes that are filled with good things. You thought they're just cornflakes and Cheerios? No, unkosher stuff. Meaning dishes that they use for bacon and eggs and all other things. And you can have it. You don't even have to kosher it. You hear what I just said? God's promising us these things. In other words, you're going to go to war. Milchemet mitzvah. Tzibur is going to fight. You can take anything and everything you want and you don't even have to kosher them. But here, against Midian, it's not a war against how many nations? Of 7 nations. Therefore, it's a war of Nekama. It's a different category. And here you have to abide by all the laws of Hachsharat Kelim, Tfilat Kelim, and Tumat Meit. And therefore, it's commanded here. Aaron was first and you're second.
Yeah, I was just thinking of a scenario. For example, some Israeli soldiers go to Gaza, go to Lebanon to protect the land of Israel.
I need unkosher food.
So is it a good opportunity to eat lobsters?
Absolutely, with ketchup. If you like ketchup.
Or
We-
you have to try to keep kosher when there are no
Look,
other
we
options?
mentioned on our
Or is it
teal,
absolutely okay.
we mentioned in our teal the eucalyptus trees in the Golan Heights. That was the advice of the spy called Eli Cohen, who was living in Syria for many years, a very devoted, holy Jew that married a Syrian woman, ate unkosher food all the time, and he was able to send messages to the Israeli intelligence that he's given advice to the headquarters of the Syrian army to build army bases in and around eucalyptus trees, which grow very high. It will be camouflage for the Syrian army bases, and that the Israelis will not know it. When the war started out in 1967, we knew because of Eli Cohen, who was later caught and hung in the city square in Damascus. May God avenge his death. How did we know where to bomb in the Golan Heights? Everywhere we knew there were eucalyptus trees. And that's what we saw yesterday. We saw a Syrian army base. We saw the houses bombarded, either by tanks or from aerial.
Place that,
That's one of the many places on the Golan Heights that their bunkers were there, their weapons were there, and so on and so forth. So he was allowed to eat all the unkosher food. Why? It's Milchemet Mitzvah. He doesn't have to kosher inside Syria. He doesn't have to go to where can I kosher my dishes? Where can I get a mikveh in Syria? He couldn't get a mikveh in Syria, right? That's how he saved it. So that's it until now. I want to, gentlemen, for another